All right, Speaker Ryan, Paul Ryan, and the Republicans, you guys said when you elect us, we'll get rid of Obamacare. I'm still waiting. And for all those who thought that Obamacare was going to be a good idea, and again, they always give the names of the most rotten legislation a noble name. The Affordable Care Act, which is so grossly unaffordable, it's night and day when looking at the definition of that, or looking at the name that they gave that law, the Affordable Care Act. It is so unaffordable. How about this one? The Patriot Act. Speaking of which, now the French president wants to add their own version of our Patriot Act. In the name of fighting terror. Of course. That's the only way that they'll ever get these piece of garbage legislation to pass. So, what was the other one? The savings and loan crisis Saint Germain Act. I think that's one. Is that it? Yeah, that's it. The Garn-Saint Germain Depository Institutions Act of 1982 is an act of Congress that deregulated savings and loan associations and allowed banks to provide, tell me if you heard this term before, 1982, but tell me if you've heard this term recently. Act of Congress that, first word, see if you've heard this word before, in the last 10 years or so, 15 years, caused a crisis of 2008. Deregulation. Did you ever hear that term? Yes, you have. It's an act of Congress that deregulated savings and loan associations. Oh, they were associations? They weren't banks now? What were they? Oh, associations. I thought it was like I thought homeowners had associations. Now banks back then were called associations. And allowed banks to provide, tell me if you heard this term before, adjustable rate mortgage loans, ARMs. It is disputed whether the act was a mitigating or contributing factor in the savings and loan crisis of the late 1980s. So again, early 80s, passed the law, deregulation, allowed these banks to gamble, kind of like we did what we did in before 2008. We allowed investment banks years before 2008, and banks, which were separated, to become one and the same. You can be a bank and an investment bank and gamble on Wall Street, and it doesn't matter. Because if you lose, your whole bank goes down, which takes the banking side with it. Now you're too big to fail. So then the whole thing has to be bailed out. So, 1982, it wasn't that long ago. I was a wee boy in 1982. 5 years old. The bill is named after its sponsors, Congressman Fernand Saint Germain, Democrat of Rhode Island, and Senator Jake Garn, Republican of Utah. See how that worked? The Republicans and the Democrats shook hands, and we came across the aisle, and we agreed on something. You're damn right you did. To deregulate something that caused a crisis later on. And oh my God, didn't we have a market crash of 1987? Well, yes, we did. And when they deregulated the stuff recently, deregulation under Clinton's watch and then Bush Jr.'s watch, several years later, we have another crisis. Another stock market crash too in 2008. Pure coincidence. So they give these names, saintly names, the Saint Germain Act. Oh, it sounds great. Sounds great. So, back to the Affordable Care Act. Not even Healthcare Act. Affordable Healthcare Act. Let's take the word health out and just use the word care. It's got more meaning. We care. Right? Not just healthcare. We care. The Affordable Care Act. And the acronym will be ACA. Sounds great. But there's a nasty little tax surprise coming soon to Obamacare customers. It'll happen. For millions of people this tax season, Obamacare won't be quite a 50-50 proposition, but it'll come close. Half of the households that received federal subsidies to help pay for their health insurance will have to repay some of that money back to the government when they file their tax returns, because when they first applied for those subsidies, they had a certain calculation of income that they put on there, which then allowed them to see what their subsidy would be. But by the end of the year, the family, and I'm talking a lot of families, miscalculated. We made more than what we actually put down on the paper, either on purpose or just not on accident. And now they're going to have to pay for it. And I'm going to predict now, because they're not going to be getting the tax return back they thought they were going to get, many of which are going to get what I like to call a margin call. Going to get a margin call from the IRS. Money in your options account, your futures account is below the threshold, sir. You need to add some more funds. It's a margin call. An IRS margin call. I like that term. Which means not only are you not getting any income tax back, but you owe us, because the subsidies that you were given to help pay for insurance, that was based on the numbers you put down, and according to your tax return, there's quite a bit more money you made, which means those subsidies, or partial or all, have to be paid back. Now, it said the average repayment owed by such people, again, across the board on average, is almost $800. The repayments will be owed because those households' actual incomes ended up being higher for the year than what they had estimated when they applied for those subsidies. Another 45% of households that received such subsidies will actually be owed a refund because they should have received more of those tax credits last year based on their final annual incomes. Their estimated average refund will be $773. So we have some people didn't pay enough, didn't make enough on their income, their tax return. So they thought they owed, so they've been paying more than they owed, and they'll get a refund. The 55% of the people, it's the opposite. You applied for subsidies, we gave you the subsidies, and your income shows you made more than you thought. We need that money back. So that a Kaiser study also found out that a relatively small group of households will owe back a lot more than the average when it comes to refunds after their actual incomes ended up being too high to even qualify for the subsidies that they did in fact get. That group of people will have an average repayment of somewhere between $2,300 and $4,000. And some could owe much more. Unlike people who earn below 400% of the federal poverty line, higher earners have no limit on the subsidies they must pay back if they were not entitled to them in the first place. So again, imagine thinking you might get even a little bit of money back, and you get nothing back, and instead you actually get you owe us in the mail from Uncle Sam. You owe us money for one of these few reasons. The Affordable Care Act. And we are waiting currently at my job, because we think we found a healthcare company that's going to give us the best rates yet. We think. And I hope so. Because if that's the case, old JSNP4 will be getting health insurance for himself. And I know you got to keep it for a year, right? And it'll just be for me, though, this time, if it's cheap enough. So that remains to be seen. Everywhere else that we've checked, the old Magic 8 Ball, how did the health insurance rate look? Magic 8 Ball. Signs point to worse than terrible. And by the way, I'm going to give you a little insider bonus. You know, I started my other YouTube channel called The Political Game Show. I told you it wouldn't be ready yet for at least a couple months till we move out of this house into a bigger house with at least an additional bedroom. And I'm going to make that additional bedroom my studio, if you will, where I do all my videos like this one, as well as really set it up to do a game show host situation. As I explained, some of you new people, I'll just say it again, you may not know what I'm talking about, where I have people Skype in as contestants, like two contestants Skype in. And I bring very important political, geopolitical, or even things like some of these hoax shootings and all this crap as questions. So the questions are going to be very valid. They'll be eye-opening to people who may not have ever heard of these things. That's the educational part. The answer, on the other hand, might borderline absurd. Because even when you think you got the answer right, on the political game show, it's like real politics. You do lose. You always lose. So even if you think you got it right, you get it wrong. And so I want to do that. I'm trying to think what the hell was I even, why was I even mentioning this? Gosh, why was I even mentioning this? Talking about the healthcare. Expensive rates everywhere. Might get healthcare myself, just for myself this time, for a year. I got to retrace my steps, so hold on. Where was I going with the political game show thing? Going to be moving out, newer house, and bigger house, extra bedroom, to do my show. But why was I saying this? What the heck was I going to say with this? It didn't have anything to do with Obamacare or anything. Of course, it's got to do everything with educating people and tricking them, into thinking they got the answer right. But, I got it. Okay, thank you, Jesus. The Magic 8 Ball. You remember those things? You shake it, you ask it a question. There's like a little singing hole in the 8 ball. You shake it up and, am I going to win the lottery next week? And you shake it and, signs point to maybe. Try again, am I going to marry a hot girl? Signs say absolutely not, And I thought to myself the other day, oh my God, if I do this political game show, I'm going to ask some serious questions and then people are going to answer and expect me to tell them, right or wrong. Is that correct or incorrect? And in order for me to give you the right answer, I literally went out and purchased, it's not here yet, it'll be here tomorrow, one of those Magic 8 Balls. So literally, your answer means nothing, but when I shake my Magic 8 Ball, whatever it says is the answer. So if you say something and I shake my Magic 8 Ball to see if your answer is right, and the Magic 8 Ball says you're right, then by God, you're right on the game show. So I felt like I'm going to add that. So that's my little insider bonus tip. Now, when this game show thing launches, that is what I'm going to use. I reached out to JM Bullion. I know you see on all my videos in the description box, I always recommend buying JM, your silver, gold, whatever from JM Bullion. I have a banner on my website for them also, realistnews.net. And I reached out to them. I said, hey, I'm going to be doing this political, it's called The Political Game Show on YouTube. I explained how it worked, which is how I just explained it to you guys, same thing. And I said, would you be interested in maybe sponsoring that? Because I would like to give the contestants, at least, in the beginning, because I probably don't have enough I don't know if I'll raise enough money through the advertising on YouTube through the video ads. I might on that particular channel. And I feel like I will eventually get there to where I could really sweeten the pot. So where whoever the contestants are, you're not just going to get one or two, here's an ounce or two of silver for playing on the game show. Like, seriously, here's 20 ounces or something. Here's a stack. Here's a short stack of silver for you for playing on the game show. But then I realized, well, at that point, do I want to just give both contestants some silver? Or at that point, do I really start asking the same questions, but then really expect some real answers, and whoever gets the answers right actually wins the prize? The problem is, it's got to be like a comedy type game show where it's funny and entertaining. So I almost feel like I'm going to have to just give whatever the two contestants are, a prize. And maybe if the magic 8-ball happens to be in your favor more than the other contestant, then you get the bigger winnings prize or whatever. So anyways, I reached out to JM Bullion to ask, hey, would you guys be interested in sponsoring this? Maybe a certain amount monthly, and I'll make sure in all of the game show video things that I do on YouTube, I'll edit it, and in the very beginning, I'll insert kind of a little shout out to JM Bullion. Hey, this game show is sponsored by or brought to you by JM Bullion for all your silver and gold needs, blah, blah, blah. And then it goes into the video. It'd be me essentially doing my own ad for them, because they would sponsor it potentially. I don't know their answer yet, but I thought I'd reach out to them and ask. So if that happens, I'm telling you, as soon as I move out of this house and I get that fourth bedroom, which should be in 2 to no more than 3 months from right now. The very latest, it should be 3 months. Earliest, technically probably a month, but I'd say probably 2 months. And then I'll get that room ready, because I plan on having like the whole freaking wall. I don't know if they make this stuff called temporary wallpaper. So you can put it up, and you can even tell them when ordering it, here's an image I'm going to send you in the email. The attachment, make this wallpaper this image. And I saw some really neat caricatures of political, cartoons. And I tried to reach out twice now to get a response, like, oh my God, could you make this? And I had an idea in mind. I want to line my whole freaking wallpaper with this. It'd be great for my game show theme. So I hadn't heard back from them. I've tried twice now. How much is it going to cost? I got a feeling it's going to cost a lot of money for a stupid caricature, but we'll see. If it is, I won't do that. I'll have to figure out something else. But little Jason 4 bonus. If you haven't subscribed to that channel yet, just do so, just so it's there. And when I start to do the first videos, you'll already be subscribed, and you'll see them come in. Again, that was The Political Game Show. Take care.